the chair is Connie Hall and Steve McIntyre and myself. But I would like to bring the administration subcommittee of MSAC group to order. And the major items that would be brought up during this subcommittee would be recruitment retention, West Virginia OEMS, regional boards, department requirements, regulatory policies, licensure. As you can see, sometimes these things tend to blend together depending on what organization and things that are there. From the past, is Clinton or anyone here, it's the EMS Business Advisory, EMS Administration Program with Clinton Burley, or anyone from HealthNet or anyone?
Clinton will be here in a little bit. We're just going to move him into whatever.
Another slot that's there?
Yeah.
And so that was that administrative certification track for those not providing patient care, and those that were here in the past or at the last meeting. There was quite a bit of discussion on that, and so we're looking at that. And then provider recognition awards is back with Melissa. And do you have an update on that? I know that those EMS providers, okay. Remember when we had the recognition that came out during EMS?
Yeah, we announced those winners at the last meeting.
And is there anything, what I'm saying is your name is beside that as far as moving forward. Is there anything that you would have as far as that going to be an annual thing, you think, during EMS week?
Yes.
And the programs will be coming out during that process, et cetera. All right. And did anyone out here have any comments about the way that process worked, any improvements, any part that can go back to the committees that seem to be fine with how that operated? But now's your opportunity. You want to be a part of things. Is there anything as far as getting the information out? I think most things came out around the 1st of May or something. I think somebody in this group came out. It was posted on the website. People could submit. There was a subcommittee formed, right, that looked at them. And then the information was out and posted back on the OMS website and things like that. And any comments, questions about that?
I just think we need to maybe a little earlier start. I know it was the first time we were trying to get that back in and get things rolling, and we had to get things approved. But now that we have the template, some minor changes, and just brush up some of the couple typos, just some minor things that we have that electronically. And I'd like to maybe bring that forth at the December meeting and get everyone's approval, any changes need to be made, and then have everything finalized by the March meeting, and then we could roll that out a little bit earlier. We have copies here and those things for the folks to take back with them, some voting sheets. If they didn't want to print those, I can bring lots of
And you were
nomination sheets.
chairman of that committee, or certainly part of that.
We just
So
need to get a little earlier start. I think we would have a lot more participation and encourage participation from every agency, but as many as we can possibly get. But I think getting the word out here is the start. You guys can take that back and share that with your surrounding squads that are not present at some of these meetings or may not be actively involved in looking at the website, state website, and those things. So.
okay, and the second I'll bypass the Nix and go to the real-time EMS communication program. And Melissa Raines, I just know your name is back beside that again. It was from?
Oh, Constant Contact, yes.
Great.
Spoke with the folks in New Jersey who are actually using the Constant Contact. They've got 2,000 to 3,000 nurses, 33,000 emails that go out at a time. They've been using it for 3 years. 33 separate providers. They say it's so easy for them to use and disseminate information. They wouldn't know what they would do at this point if they didn't have it. Individuals have the ability to opt in or opt out. You can't be contacted if you make the choice to opt out. If you want to opt in after you have opted out, you have to contact the office to do so. It's saved them $25,000 annually in paper and postage. All the emails would come back to the Office of EMS and not the distribution list. It's not a blog. There's not a reply all capability, and that was one of the concerns that this group had expressed the last time we talked about this. They do use the system quite frequently. It allows them the ability to do reports, the number of bad email addresses, the number of emails that have bounced back. Vicki, you were on that call with me. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting to tell the group?
No, I think you've covered it all, actually.
If you could kind of back up, either you and I think I understand exactly what it is, but from those that may not have been at the meeting last time, this was a way of communicating, not two-way, but just overview that either one of you about how we would implement this and why it was important that we thought that it was something.
Well, I think initially what we would do is the CIS will be utilized as the initial database. You also have the ability, this is one other thing, we can set up groups. So like if we just want to get a message out to hospitals, we can just get it out to hospitals. If you want a BLS, you can do BLS, and you can break it down to those levels also. And I've actually had funding for some years now in my grant to pay for this.
So versus what we do now where a message would come out to the leaders, it goes to the official representative.
Official representative.
And that may or may not get disseminated. And so this would be everyone that is registered in CIS and opted in. It would go to their text or email or.
Well, we could set up groups. We could still have a group for the official reps if that was a group we wanted to communicate with only. Squad training officers, medical directors, paramedics, EMTs. We could break it out a lot more succinctly than we can or we do now.
And what, is it text or email? What would be?
Email.
Email. And so that would encourage everyone to keep their email addresses updated a lot more. And so it would not be, and again, so a message come from the OMS office to go blanketly from there to everyone if it was a disaster or something you wanted to
Or
point
if
it
it's a
out.
newsletter, monthly newsletter, or whatever we choose to do with it.
Anytime there's an update on the OMS website, I'd love that, so I wouldn't have to keep checking. It's like, hey, there's something new. All it has to say is, check your OMS website, something new is on there.
And one of the.
If you subscribe to the RS feed now, it will notify you whenever there's a change to the website.
And we were also told if you're on duplicate lists, if you're a medic and you're the official agency rep, you'll get one email. You won't get duplicates. It weeds through those.
And one of the issues that we have been tasked with as the advisory council legislatively is communication. And getting communication to not only squads, but individuals in every part of the state. This is a good way to fill that void and show that we're doing something.
And I think it'd be particularly useful for my side where I send out so much training information and upcoming trainings or conferences or symposiums. I think that would increase our participation greatly because we struggle with that sometimes.
And what about surveys or like say that if the stable class or something like that, is there a way that it would go out and then if you're interested in this class, go to this link to register or something like that, or who's got interest in what areas or?
And they also have the ability, we learned this, is they can run a gazillion types of reports. You know, who opened the email? They will, I mean, it tracks so much that it blew my mind. So they also lots of information back from that too.
If I could ask, because we have people with email and now everything is Facebook, how many people in here, now this is the wrong group probably because you're all kind of administrative. How many people in here look at your email several times a day or it pops up? It's what you do. How many of your employees, field employees, you think utilize email? I've got a couple of, because that's our problem. When we send something out by email, it's almost like we've got to send it out by Facebook to say, go to your email, look, this is what, there's something important that we're sending that way. if I could get a show of hands, how many feel that sending out to EMTs and paramedics, that they would get that within a day or two, that they would open their emails, the younger people? So we got half.
Well,
Well, because what I hear back from my side is, I don't get the information from my agency if I didn't get the email.
No, what I mean is, do they access, do they log on and get the emails? Our emails are popping up on our
You can-
phones and stuff every day.
you can actually answer that question in real time. Yesterday, Melissa sent out an email that went to every person in the state who has a CIS account.
Right.
It went to all EMTs, it went to all paramedics, it went to all training officers, and in CIS, it only sends it out one time. And so the question would be, how many of your people saw that email that came out from Melissa yesterday?
Quite a few, because I've gotten a number of emails already in this one.
I am certain there are people who don't use emails. I still have people who get upset with me when they log into CIS because they say they don't have an email, and I tell them they have to have one. So there are people that but they are few and far between now.
See, in our agency, everybody's required to have an email because your patient care record stuff is tied back on it.
No, I know.
So we require it.
And honestly, I'll just be honest, I'm real. I think it comes back to provider responsibility. This is your responsibility as a provider of emergency medical services in this state. And it's personal responsibility.
I'm with it. I'm wanting a solution. I really, and I think it has to be email. I think it allows a lot more continuity. I'm just saying that what some agencies are doing now is we've got to flash it on Facebook to say, go to your email, there is something that you're going to need to complete here. And I don't know, I'm just saying, as we move forward, that might, I don't know how they've addressed that. So they felt that in the states you've had the RNs, that they are, if you look at where technology has gone, the quiet, or not the quiet, but the secret or Facebook groups is this other way. You lose things and gain things in that versus
Just about every
Facebook
phone,
stuff.
just about every phone that you have out there, you can get your email on.
Right.
And if they can get Facebook notifications on their phone, they can get email notifications on their
And
phone.
text and
Because they can get everything
phone
on their phone.
Twitter and
Every time I get an
yes.
email, I get a ding on my phone. So
I
they
know.
can have that capability too. There is no excuse for that. It's the department's responsibility. If they want these people to have that, these people, there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, see, we don't, in Mason, we don't allow them to have, well, it's not that we don't allow them, where we have our server, everybody has, like Campbell County, I'm sure every other county, they have their county emails.
Right.
So we know, we can look and see who is active checking their email. And if they're not, then we can single them out and say, you need to do this. You
A
know,
lot of-
with private emails, Yahoo, things like that, you don't really have that ability to track that. You know, so like I said, we only send it to their company email.
How many organizations have a dot organization, .com.org or something? Is it? I'm still. It's looking more. I think it will work. I mean, I'm just trying to figure that out. I think that I love the idea. I think that that's a huge step forward. And I think it's just a matter of reaching out to people.
The thing that you're talking about with Facebook is a problem with technology. New people move to new technology. And what email used to be the thing, now the thing is no longer Facebook even. Now we're Twitter, and we've gone beyond Twitter to something else.
Snapchat or whatever.
Instagram, Snapchat.
And, yeah, and I, like probably most of you in here, don't have just one email account. I wish I only had one email account. I've got
Right.
3 at least that are very active and that I have to check all the time, different stuff. As technology changes, you're going to have problems with people moving to different platforms and trying to get people to go on the same platform. Require them to use a business email is one way to do it, and being able to check it allows you to be able to confirm whether they've looked at it or not.
You know, just being in the real world here, if you send it out email, unless it sends something out official, you read it, you
Yeah.
digest it.
Yeah.
If it goes out to Facebook, there's a lot of commentary on there, and the real intent of it gets lost.
Yeah,
Sure.
there's a lot of,
So
yeah, I was gonna
you
say, if you
stay
send
away
it
from
out
that.
both.
I do not disagree at all with the fact that I think most things that come out from OEMS, one way or the other, it basically says, look, don't reply to this email, it's gonna go to a dead site. This is a one-way communication. I think that surveys and things like that, as far as, you know, what that information can be, would be better organized. Because I do agree that a lot of these other platforms become this kind of a source of commentary, and then by the time you're into the fifth comment, you don't know what their initial intent was. But I do think getting information back from a lot of field providers in some type of organized way would be helpful. Like, you know, hey, these are the new protocols, and if somebody said, you think there's any problems with these protocols, and you get 40% that says, oh, there might be a problem, well, then at least you can go back and look at it, and you would get a snapshot across the state of what that is without all the
I
comments.
don't know how everybody else in here feels, but one of the things that I hear from my people is, you know, if the whole intent of this conversation is to improve communication in EMS in West Virginia. A one-way conversation is not communication.
That's also true.
So I think that's probably.
How would we solve that issue without it being 896,000 comments and comments on the comments? There'd have to be,
But with everything that we send out, there's gonna be a contact person listed in that. You have the ability to pick up
To
a
email
phone
them.
or shoot an email and contact that person. I would rather say we have an issue with educating the employees to check their email than to say EMS doesn't send us out the information we need. I would rather have that
The task of the EMS office then would be to direct it to who it needs to go to. And what we need to get a lot better at is, instead of responding to stuff, if it's an MSAC issue, that's our reply. It needs to go to MSAC, please come and prepare it. If it needs to go to MPCC, instead of us making up answers from the office or from wherever, it needs to go to that respective committee. That's how everything else functions. And that's where we just grow with this and get better. But the whole thing is, we need to have that communication. This is another tool to give us that communication and get things going in that right direction.
so what is the cost, or what is the next steps on?
It's based on tiers, how many people are using it. It's probably about $150 a month for what we would need,
So, astronomical.
And zero cost to the squad.
and zero cost to an agency.
Any other comments? Mason County, what do you think would be the communication link back? How do you see that? What do you
I think if
think
you're
with
just
this email?
looking- If you're just looking to put the information out there, then they're either gonna check it or not, you know.
But I mean, as far as allowing an EMT in your agency or a paramedic to get a legitimate reply or comment back.
In our agency, we have our own company email, and I've heard some negative things, but we have a private Facebook group that only our
Right.
employees use, and that is the forum for conversation, for comments. If somebody notices something wrong with a truck.
Right.
It's basically an ongoing conversation between our agency. Nothing inappropriate, nothing like that. It's strictly business. We use that to communicate within our own agency. And I don't know that helps.
So how would you think that would work with OEMS? Because I think that's the one thing that we do. If they move forward, I think we got the communication going out. I think that Jamie and Melissa, I think everyone wants it back. Is that in the form of surveys in this group? We've got a few extra minutes and we do an MSAC. So is it a way that each comment, I think the last one that came out wasn't it about responding to the floods? Is that what, or the hurricanes?
Yes.
So for those that may not got, because how many got that do not self-deploy? See, that's pretty good.
Well, there's a POC on each one of them, like Vicki said, so you have to all pass to the POC.
Only.
I think the question is how many, because like you said, pretty much everybody in this room has email on their phone. Of course, they're all going to raise their hand. The question is how many people that work with
Right.
us.
No, I agree with that. But at least at this level, and I know that this is at certainly one level and the next level we're going to kind of get to. But so if it does come out, how would you like to respond to that? Like say, hey, I'm already in Austin. I got called down by somebody, you know, whatever that response might be if you send it out to 200 agencies.
Is there, okay, We have already said several times that there is a point of contact at the beginning of every email that comes out from CIS. There is a person who is given and their email addresses and telephone number. I feel, rather than it had been stated, that this is insufficient.
I don't.
Is that true? That this is not enough to encourage two-way communication?
Or is it okay? I guess that's the question. We might as well solve it here, so if it goes to MSAC, we
Again,
go.
Melissa just said that on the one that came out yesterday, she got a lot of telephone calls back to her, and emails, and I know that there were other people in the office. She was the contact. I know there were other people that got contacts too. I know that John got contacts about deployment as well. So I know that people, from an office perspective, and I understand that the office perspective is different from the field perspective, but from the office perspective, people don't seem to be bashful about calling those numbers or sending emails to us. But if that's insufficient, then we might look for another way, and certainly we want to look for every way we can.
I think what I'm saying is, you mentioned you got a bunch of emails back. How many of those emails ask the same questions?
Yeah.
It really wasn't questions, it's just if you need
Well,
help.
I guess
let me
what
know
I'm saying
first.
is the one person sends it out, and then 50 people ask the same question back in 50 different emails. So
Yeah.
it doesn't allow for two-way communication that everybody can see that. I hate being the guy that asks a question that's already been asked 10 times.
Or if people are wanting to say, hey, if there is more people needed to go, our agency would be ready. And if there was 20 of them that did that, it would be nice to know what those 20 agencies were. And maybe it'd be people right around your area and go, well, if that were to occur, then shoot, I already know that, there's 3 agencies right close to me or 3 counties. I get the point, and I guess that's when I was starting originally about some kind of a survey thing back. I don't want to take something simple and a great step forward and make it more complicated. But sometimes it is that these questions that come out, like say the FDA with the medication extensions and stuff, that there's certain things that almost say, hey, we're going to be doing this, or we're not going to be doing this, or we've got another source of meds or something, whatever that is, that what I call collective wisdom, the idea of if I knew even a millionth of what everybody in this room knows from all their experiences, it'd be good to share. And Facebook at its best does things a little like that. I
And
don't
we do
know.
have the ability to do survey monkey already.
I'd like to see some type of a forum where people can actually get on there and pose questions. And I get what you're saying. You don't want that to be congested with a bunch of opinions or a bunch of things that are going to clog that up. I get that. But if you're looking to improve communication, to disseminate it out one way is not necessarily improving communication. We already have email.
I guess the system may not be Twitterific, where you get instant gratification or immediate response for the world to see. But if the point is to have two-way communication, you have that with this. You at least have that. You can't say you didn't get an answer. The burden will be on us to respond. As long as everybody's getting the same response. There's not a lack of communication.
Can you do a private state chat line? Because I know that organizations have private
You
chat.
do not do that in state government.
So what would
We
you like?
have set up chat groups before.
I'll get to you, Shane.
And we can set up chat groups.
Okay, so it is possible. Shane?
So my question is, what information are you wanting to solicit from the masses? What would be the email that you'd want to circumvent the official representative or training officers or medical directors and take the message straight to the field and get solicitation for input back from all the field personnel? And that would be a tremendous amount of data coming back at you. So what is that question that we would say, hey, we want to hear from every EMT, every paramedic, ACT, whatever at the state? That would be my question. And who's going to really manage that? Because like I said, you're already sending out mass emails. The official representatives are distributing it. There's a ton of social media, Twitter, Facebook, that's already out there that you can send. This is what we want you to do. I mean, I mean, I like the idea of the system where it says, we want to send a message out for training to just EMTs or to whatever, but really, is it more just notification? You're really not looking for 2,000 paramedics to respond back to an email. Or are you? I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with Shane in that, you know, within my department, my guys don't call the Office of EMS. And if they do, they're getting an ass chewing because at the end of the day, there's a process they should go through. And the administrator should be the one calling the Office of EMS to field legitimate questions, because many times those questions can be answered in your department. So what we potentially are going to do here is open up a door for 5,000 providers to be emailing back or calling back to ask questions that could have been very easily answered within your department.
I'm not
And it's going to
disagreeing
turn,
with
and
that
it's
one
going
way or
to
the
turn
other.
into one big argument, you know, in a blog or whatever you try to do. Unfortunately, because there's a lot of people out there, I mean, we still have departments that don't know how to certify their people. They don't know how to go through a research process. They don't know how to fill out the paperwork. So, you know, we're at that level, and when we have people who don't understand the basics, you know, my goodness, what kind of questions are they going to be sending back and asking? And like I said, I foresee some kind of online system like that that's just turning into a big argument.
I'd agree. Hold the administrators a little more accountable for disseminating the information down to everybody.
Now, I'm not
And-
opposed to the information being sent out and you know, in a system like this and going to everybody. I'm not opposed to that at all. But, you know, when it comes back to particular things, I think that the administrators need to be accountable in their squad of making people understand why those things occur.
And we have done surveys before of everybody on certain issues, and we have the ability to do those and let everybody, what we choose the issues we do them on. If you remember back some time ago, the faces I see familiar here, we did a survey on why you went into EMS and what keeps you there. We came out with information from there, and that was important that we got not just the administrators' view, but everybody's view, and I thought it was a worthwhile survey. So we can do things like that. That's not an issue. That's not anything new.
I guess all I was saying was, for example, yesterday, she was able to send out an email
Yeah.
to everybody in the system. How
Is it
that?
everyone in the system, or who did that email post?
Yesterday.
Is it the official rep? It was everyone.
At yesterday's email. And
I
again, in
apologize.
CIS, we
Yeah.
have the ability to send it out to certain certification levels. We have
Right.
certain job levels.
So how is-
So what is the new system?
Yeah, so how is this
different?
any different, I guess is what I'm asking.
What will $2,000 get you?
Yeah.
Already have the ability to do.
The reporting system that Vicky's been talking about, the ability to run reports about those kind of things is not in CIS. There are some changes that are being made in CIS that I assume at some point we're going to talk about, but and I'm not sure what is going to be available to the new one. But the reports that Vicky has talked about and being able to see how many people have opened up their email, that's not built into CIS the way it is now.
And for example, I may have a contact at a hospital that I send training information out. Do you think it always gets to the hospital employees? It doesn't. So this way, every employee can sign up for it if they want and receive the information. So you have any idea how many times I hear, can I get on a list? I don't have a list. I can put you on, you know, in my hospitals where I get all your training information. This way they have that ability to do that.
I'm going to do a counterpoint, because I do agree that there's a lot that probably needs to go through the agencies back to OEMS, and that's the way I think most people would want things to go, because the question should be answered. But there is a whole subset of people that either work for multiple agencies or perhaps part-time at agencies or intermittently at agencies or in between agencies that are coming up for certification and things like that. And there's probably those that do fall through the cracks. And then I would say that number is fairly large, because if you look at the number of providers and then the number that ran calls, you know, last month and the last 3 months, that number could be maybe 60% of those or 70% of those is all. So there would be some ability to say the recertification process, this is when the recerts are, or something like that, that sometimes mass emails may be one of those things to keep it. And from an agency standpoint, that does keep people engaged, and maybe those people that are off with maternity or family issues with health or something like that, that they got out of EMS for a while, same as nurses, everybody else, it would keep them engaged if they could be, and maybe that could be a recruitment or retention issue to bring some of those people back.
And it also gives us the ability to work with our border states. If I don't have folks that are signed up for trainings in West Virginia, trust and believe I'm sending information to Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I send it to these folks. So it opens up, they're treating our kids too, and adults.
What is the redundancy right now? So CIS allows you to send out to the agency rep or the agency lead. Is there a redundancy in there for a second if that person is unavailable in meetings, on vacation? Because we've ran into that issue where important emails will come out through CIS, our agency lead is not available or for whatever reason may not disseminate that information down, and me as the number 2 guy did not receive that email. That's the problem we run into.
Yeah, I am the one who typically sends out the CIS, and when whoever it is, Vicki or Melissa or Doc or whoever chooses, they tell me what job roles, who do you want this to go to? And if, like yesterday, she says everybody and your brother, well then I select everybody and their brother. If, however, she says to official rep, then there is only one official rep at every agency, and that person is the only person that's going to get it. And that official rep is going to have to hand it off if they want to hand off that responsibility. Now, we had earlier when CIS was being formed, we talked about this with the groups, and the official reps wanted it that way. There were certain things that were coming out that they wanted to be able to control and wanted to be able to give to the appropriate people if they wanted to give it to it. And I understand that management and the ability to do it. So there are things like training officer, for instance, that we have an assistant training officer, and you can have a dozen assistant training officers. But there are other things like medical directors. There is no assistant medical director. So I hate to be bureaucratic, but it depends.
And I think we see that a lot. I think most agencies would. If it goes to the medical director, it should go to the QA or compliance and the official rep. At least a lot of agencies feel that way, because if it's representing that employee, and it may be a medical issue, but if it's a medical or QA issue, then somebody's got to decide that person's going to be on the truck or not while that incident's being looked at or something like that. And so the grouping of it, you know, if this has an ability to have grouping where agencies can say, because to Shane's point, I also agree that blasting everything to everybody and getting 300 opinions, you know, or 50 opinions within an agency that hasn't been filtered back is also not worthwhile. So flexibility is kind of a hallmark to this. And again, back to somebody else's point about $2,000, whether we buy enough or not, I guess it goes back to the IT of the state about whether this system, which will then be separate from CIS. So is it going to get the emails from CIS? Because keeping someone with an accurate email in a database within your own company when somebody's hired and then dismissed or moved or changed positions or whatever is complicated enough. To get it done in CIS doubly complicates that whole thing. So is this drawing straight from CIS?
And recognize new addresses.
What's that?
I think you have the ability to filter and recognize different addresses when you put them in.
Because if it's a third database,
Is it gonna pull the addresses from CIS?
and will it update from CIS if it won't, so we're talking about a separate database, because I'm seeing you guys just saying that it doesn't.
I have no idea.
That's a huge concern, because
My recommendation would be one or the other. You can't be sending stuff out to CIS and through this. It just becomes confusing and messy and.
Well, you also have, again, we need to remember that Vicky's talking about a larger group than CIS. CIS, we're talking about all EMS certified individuals or all those people who work in EMS. But she's also talking about hospital systems. And there is a limited number of people who have CIS accounts who are directly related with the hospital.
Or it may be school systems, I work with schools, it may be school nurses. I work with a vast group. And to go on with what Bob said, where you can only have one official agency rep. Perfect example, part of my performance measures, I have to do so many assessments through the feds to keep my grant. I send out the email to my official agency reps. Well, within 2 weeks when nobody's doing it, I start picking up the phone calling everyone. And what I hear is, yeah, he doesn't do that. If you'll send that to Joe Smith, he takes care of that. I don't have that ability to send it to Joe. But if it went out that a survey is coming, they know to look for that.
And yes, you're absolutely right that keeping up email addresses, I probably receive 3 or 4 calls a day from people who are saying, I can't get into CIS and I can't get a temporary password sent to me because I no longer have access to that email account. And that forces people to get a current email address, and they don't do a very good job at it.
And that's a problem regardless of which system you use to get information out. That's still that problem.
All right.
And Jamie, I could probably get an answer to your question about how do you pull in new people.
Well, I'm saying if this product can be set up the same as CS, meaning you have an administrator level, you have an all EMTs, you have all paramedics, and you can just click who you want to send it all to, and then you can have hospital staff or all separate. Okay, there's no reason this system couldn't be used in place of using CIS as your communication tool, but I don't know that anybody's in favor of having both and receiving stuff from different places.
And I think the
But you have the
challenge,
ability to opt in and out.
well, I know, but the challenge with CIS is the state says that if I took away your ability to perform in the field, I'm only sending it to your address and your email, or if your recertification packet and you are renewed, I'm only sending that to your CIS email or mailing address, then agencies and personnel are going to have to maintain that. And now we've got a third, and most every agency also has, a lot of them has their own. And the reconciliation between those is complicated and difficult.
You know, every couple of weeks, or every so often, whenever we forget to update our smart system, I get a text telling me, hey, from Dr. Mills, I need to go update our smart system. That goes straight to my phone. Everybody texts every day. They don't have to log into anything. If you really want to improve communication, is that not easier than?
You got to update your cell phone too. Yeah.
And I don't think it was ever intended to replace CIS. It was intended to supplement it, to make sure we get information out there.
So can there be 3 things that can be done real quickly from your guys' side maybe as this moves forward? One, if anything entered into CIS will automatically update this system for those EMS providers, that would be a gold mine. All right, because then the state requirement that information is updated in CIS will just update this system. And that keeps us only reconciling between a couple databases. All right, so that would be one. The flexibility of the grouping, I do agree that nearly every email that comes out just gets sent to this case management@janker.com, which is those 8 people that manage everything here, because anything comes out from the floods to the FDA or whatever it is, people have to realize what that is. And that subgroup is a bigger group. I think almost everybody here, no matter how big or small your agency is, it's not one person. And that person's on vacation, then nothing gets out. So I think it's a group of people, assistants or whoever that is that's there. And but can that be done at CIS level too, where that can be opened up? The same thing with the quality improvement. It seems like if emails are going straight to only a couple of people, then maybe there should be some subgroups in that. So CIS having capability of that when it's updated, that would help with that system.
If you can help me to identify what subgroups you would like to have, and those could be job roles where people are assigned, then we can talk about that. That certainly.
And
can
briefly,
be-
that's education, quality improvement, performance improvement, and then management. Is there anybody that's got
Again-
something else differently? than
Again,
that?
we already have training officer, we already have QI officer, and while the
Official
training
rep
officer-
would have some people that could be assistant, whatever that would be,
Assistant,
administrators,
assistant
administration of
official
some
rep.
type. Anybody else have any other comments
I
about
just,
that?
I need from the group to know what groups you're talking about. What is it that you'd like to have, and we'll try to work it out. See,
I think there definitely needs to be an administration subgroup, that way
Yeah.
there's some redundancy with the
A
official
group of,
rep.
yeah.
Well, remember that there is already administrator job role, and that it is not limited like the official rep and the training officer and the medical director. So you can put as many people as you want to in it as administrators. In the past, administrator function has been more of a clerical function rather than a management function, but if we wanted to redefine it as a management function.
And that's some of the issue. Most of the stuff that's going to the official rep should go to the administrator. And that's one of the key pieces that's missing.
And again, that's a matter of WDOEMS making a policy and deciding that whenever they send something out to the official rep, they send it out to the administrator. That's not a technical issue.
So, I know we keep leaning on the office to provide all these resources, but, you know, many of us, most agencies have the ability to create a distribution list email, like whatever, JaneCare Management or the official rep.com, and that would be, and then you would assign your own staff to whoever you wanted to receive that email.
Right.
And that puts that back on the agency to ensure that that is done, as opposed to whoever, John Smith at whatever email address. If the agency has an official rep at JaneCare, then they could add whoever they want in that distribution list themselves. I mean, there's a lot of.
And that was the position of the official reps when CIS was originally created, was that they would take care of the distribution at the agency to the appropriate people.
I agree with you, and I get caught in that exact trap sometimes. Our job as the advisory council is to look out for the entire state. And, you know, sometimes I have trouble thinking about that, but there's a lot of departments out here with 20 people in them, you know, and that official rep has left, there's a new one, no one knows, he's not in CIS. That information is not getting to those particular people, and even if it did, they don't have an internal email system. They don't have the means to even set that up. They don't have any interest in setting that up, and yeah, I know that's on them, but still, what do we need to do? What kind of process do we need to look at to make sure that information is getting to those people as well?
Or if they're on a volunteer, they may have a board or a council or something that the executive of the agency may be part-time and doing other things, and information that came out. In my mind right now, the official rep and a kind of a management, that the squad would dictate who those are. The administrative, I'm trying to wrestle with it because I don't want a lot of levels, but the administrative stuff is kind of in that second thing. The education part and the performance improvement part of it seems to be the three. And I think what we've looked at in the past was how easily we can add people to be in those groups with the agency, if those agencies want to. If the agency just wants it to go to one person, then they can and do it internally, or if the agency would do it, it's more of a clarification of those things they can select in CIS. So everyone could do that.
Let's create a subcommittee to work with the Office of EMS and figure out this whole communication issue.
Mr. Mason County, what's your name? So you're on that committee. Say if you want to be on that committee, you need to be on. I can't see with my glasses from there.
Sure.
Jamie, if you got anybody else, and then back to anybody else. We need somebody else. Jim, you want on? James?
Not really.
Okay. Okay. I think it's pretty straightforward. But anybody else wants? Trish? Come on. It's like, but I think we could have a short meeting sometime at it. And I think that it's one of those things. And then the information.
All right, we got Dylan. Who else we got?
Me.
Chad. Who else? And you want them to work with Bob, and we can get some things identified and bring it back to you and say this is what we fix. The current process.
All right. Frequent service utilization, that was part of the CP or community paramedic. I think at some point we need to take that off of the administration. That's kind of the frequent flyer patient situation, and I think that it's been on this, within this subcommittee for quite a while, and I think that it is what it is, and the resolution has to do with community outreach and a lot of other challenges, unless someone's got something new with it. And legislative reports. We're going to hold
we'll
out
do
to
that.
policy and procedure, or we're going to do that.
We'll do that real quick. Actually, what we'll do, I'll just give you a brief overview. Legislature is doing their interim sessions. There is a joint fire and EMS committee made up of senators and delegates. They met 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Their first fire and EMS committee meeting. I'll go into it further when we get into MSAC, but basically, they're looking at how they're going to review the system, how they're going to field comments, and how they're going to address changes that need to be made. I now have all their emails and all their contacts. We will be giving them a report monthly. At this point, like I said, I'll go into this more in detail. They are extremely satisfied with what MSAC is doing. I think they're going to focus a lot more on volunteer fire service, but it does appear that they're going to do some type of town hall meeting or open meeting. And the last they talked about was Jackson's Mill. They were going to try to schedule that because they don't feel that in legislative session, even an interim session, is a great platform for people to be able to come in and talk. So they want to have a more relaxed atmosphere to listen to providers. So they talked about going around the state, and they said, well, let's just have one central meeting at Jackson's Mill and discuss it. There are some issues with that. Legislators are legislators. They're not fire and EMS professionals. So it's going to be very difficult